There are a lot of dehancer film emulation videos out there, and at this point, it's starting to look like the new teal and orange trend. And while I'm no expert colorist myself, I do approach this with multiple years of being a director, cinematographer, and editor in the film and commercial space. So today I'll be showing you a professional color grading workflow of how I use dehancer for a recent TV commercial that we did. Whether you're in Resolve, Final Cut, or Premiere Pro, you too can follow this workflow step by step to get pro-looking film emulation on videos shot with digital cameras. Let's get started. By the way, I'll be making this look available for download as a free lot. The link is going to be in the description of this video. The first and most important step is to find a reference. Usually in the past, I would start working on the image right away and just figure it out as I went along. Bad call. The problem with this approach is that there's no single film look. It depends on what the video needs or what mood you're going for. Personally, I use Shot on What and Shot Deck to find my references. I just go through their library and look for a reference image that I think matches. I'm looking for things such as the film stock, what format it was shot on, and all the other color process information that I can find. Going into a color grading process with all this information helps the colorist or editor save time and be very direct. Besides, during the treatment phase, this look would have already been decided on and presented to the client for approval. For this commercial, we had already agreed on the Kodak Vision 3 500T for the cold action look we were going for. Next would be to convert the image to Rec 709. If you shot in standard, you don't need this step. However, I assume that you shoot in log. You can use your favorite technical conversion or use the one built right into dehancer. Ideally, I would have used the Red Komodo's proprietary conversion lots, but I find that it is very similar to what we have in dehancer. So this is the two clips that we're going to be working with today. I want this to be as fast and as accurate as possible, right? We're going to choose the camera that we shot on. The camera that we shot on was the Red, and the specific vendor was the Komodo 6K, and the format was the IPP2 red white gamut log 3G10. Now, don't worry, it looks very funky right now. We're going to correct a couple of things here. Straight away, this is what we get. This is our Rec 709 image. Now, if I do need to tweak anything here in this image, for example, I could do that straight away here in dehancer, or I could do that by just, doing an adjustment curve or just going straight into the red image itself and just working on that. But for the most part, right, let's just keep this down to the workflow part. The next step that I would do for an image like this would be to tackle the highlights. If you have any blown out highlights that you'd like to recover, now would be the time to fix them. For me, filming on a Komodo makes sure that I have plenty of information, but I almost always never blow out my image. If you go through this timeline, I think that most of what we have here are pretty decent. If we come here and just sort of zoom in and see what is going on with those bright lights there. For me personally, I like the way they're looking. They're not harsh, they're smooth. And that's just because we accounted for this while we were filming. If we go to the next shot as well, here you can see the overhead lights as well. They're not too harsh. They're not too, they're not distasteful. And if I pull up my scopes, just here, you can see on what the scope is showing that the highlights yeah, maybe they're clipping a little bit too much, but it's so soft in how they roll off. So just moving on, I personally wouldn't worry about the highlights here because I think everything is just pretty much sitting bright the way I want them to be. Next is white balance. Before we send this picture into dehancer for the emulation part, you want to make sure that the picture is as correct as possible so that the emulation can translate correctly. Now, to be able to do this, one of the things that I usually do is I use the skin tones in a shot like this where most of what I'm seeing is very much skin tones. He also has a white shirt here that we could potentially use, but I really just love to use the skin tone. So what I would do is to go in and grab a mask tool. Now I'll just put the mask tool on this guy here And then I come and I just select the areas of his face so that I can get all that skin tone in there, possibly even extend it more so that I can get more of all of that. Right now, what I want to do is come back into my vector scope and see where that skin tone is lying. And if we really look at this now, let's see, what if we just make it smaller, like so, you know, if we really look at that skin tone, I mean, it looks pretty accurate to me. I don't think it's truly off. If we wanted to change anything, this is where we could change that. But overall, I think the skin tones are pretty good. Now, what I do want to change is somehow it comes off to me as there's a little bit of green, especially in this side of the shot. So what I could potentially do is come in here and bring in a curves tool, for example, or I could just go straight into red raw. Actually, that's going to be a better one. I'll just go straight into red raw, and you see that tint slider, and I'm just going to bring this down till I feel this is clear enough. It looks like somewhere that's too magenta, somewhere that's too green now, like so. Let's see if this is at 0, it's probably like too magenta now. Let's just do somewhere too green, like so. So I think a 5 looks okay. And then I just apply that to the image. So now I've instantly corrected that shot from being too extra green to becoming more neutral is what I would have that. And you can see that now along his shirt. Because now, once again, if I do go back and I use that mask, and let's just bring this to the shirt, right? We can see that it is not on the skin tone line. And I guess for this, we'd have to change the waveform and just bring that into the RGB overlay, for example. And we can see the shirt here. We can see all of that information here that we're pretty much close to where we want it to be. And now with that being done, we can take off the mask tool. So now we have a good representation. This one as well, I think I would pretty much, oh yeah, I would definitely do the same thing to this guy here. Also come in here and just bring that. Let's see what a 5 is going to look like. We shot this cool. We shot this very close in terms of the lighting. They were pretty much very similar. So now it looks like we have a closer match in terms of how the skin tone and everything else is doing. So if we did actually bring that over here and just check the skin tone, let's come here, 1 2 3 and 4, and if we opened our vector scope, we can see how we're very close to the skin tone line. Maybe we just need a little bit of adjustment here actually. And we will do that using a hue saturation curve if you wanted to change something like this. So now I could come in here, grab the skin tone, let that lay there, and then I could just move that over to that point where the skin tone should be. And now if I take off the draw mask tool, we can see what the difference is doing in there. It's very subtle, but at the same time, it gives a more, accurate representation of where the skin should be. So now that we already have good information in terms of where we want our skin to be, we want our accurate white balance to be, the next thing that we will go to would be exposure. The main idea here about exposure is to bring this to an acceptable level of brightness and darkness, if that's a thing. And I think the dehancer here is useful because it has an IRE feature built into one of the tools, and I'm just going to show you how to do that. So if we come back into dehancer here, first of all, we're going to choose our hero frame. I think I like it here just before, right over here would be perfect, right? Now what I want to do is go down. All of this, I haven't used anything yet. This is still Rec 709. At this point, we haven't started doing the film emulation. We're just trying to bring our image to the best possible way that it can be. And so I just come in here and check the false color. And what I'm getting from the false color here is that the lights here are blown out. I could bring that down and I will get back to that with one of the tools as well that dehancer has. But I like where we're sitting just, on the sides of the face. We wanted something like a sandwich to happen here to create that level of contrast that we're going for, so that on this side of the frame you had like dark, and then it would come here and you'd have light, and then there's a dark contrast here, and then there's bright here as well. We wanted to create like a character that was not very bright and happy. He's a warrior, he's a fighter, so we wanted something as well that could show that. So here, just by looking at this, I think if I would go back in, I would bring in a curves just to tackle that exposure. Now what I want to do specifically now in this case would be to work on this side of his face. I just want this to come more towards the green here. I want to have more green and just take out some of like that, purple shadow is. Depending on how it's going to look, I will, I could potentially change that and things like that and just see. So perhaps something like that would just be good enough for what I want to do, and maybe just bring some of those highlights down so that we get that information back. And you can see what's going on here. You can see what is going on here, right? Just bring that to a point where we don't see the reds anymore. That's what I'm tackling here in terms of the exposure side of things. I think like so would be good. Just bring that up just a little bit, tiny bit, and like that. So great. Now we're here, right? This is where we started from, and now we're here. This is where we started from. Now we're here, right? So what do I want to do here now, right? I've already gotten this to a point where I am satisfied, right? And now what I would do is go back into dehancer and turn off the profile, right? Ultimately, now look at where we are. We've gone from this to this, right? This is off and this is on, off, on, off, on. It did bring in just a tiny bit of contrast that I like, but it also just, was saving some of that overexposure that's going on this side of the frame. Now, with that being said, having gotten this to an acceptable level of brightness, okay, I think I would do the same for this as well. I think that the face here is just a little bit dark, and what I can do is bring this down a little bit and just bring that midtones up just a little bit more, while we just tone down those highlights so that we can just get a little bit of brightness on that face. That's what we're going for, just a little bit of brightness on that face. And if we toggle that on and off, let's bring that back to the top of the chain. The reason why I'm bringing this to the top of the chain is because I want to be processing that effect first before the Rec 709 transform, which is why you will see that I put the dehancer plugin on an adjustment layer that's above the clip, so that I'm working and doing all of these changes in the log image, while the Rec 709 is only the thing that's going to be going through the film emulation. So now if I toggle that, on and off, on and off, on and off, you can see that we're getting some amount of contrast. I'll probably just bring this up just a little bit more, just to give it that oomph, just a little bit, like so. So if we turn it off on, we get just, that extra bit of brightness in there. And then, at this point, I think that we are ready to go. Now let's go into film emulation. If you've been enjoying this video so far, please take time to subscribe, like, and share this video so that other people can find this useful. It really helps the channel, and let's get back to it. So now that we're here at this point, we come into the film. We'll turn this on. Now we've already decided that we were going to use the Kodak Vision 3 500T. I'm going to select that. And the first thing I will go straight away is to change the print. Kodak 2383 print film. I'll enable that, and straight away you can see where we are at. It does start to look more filmic. We're gonna, switch up a couple of things to make it look better. But I do like this feel of that it's given. Now, what I want to change here is I will probably move this to about here, right? So that now I get that more concrete, harsh action movie type of look that we're going for in this place. And you could see that here. It's so like it's grungy, and it's exactly what we're going for. Just straight away, I'm already liking how this is looking, and I think the thing that I would probably want to work on would now be coming down into the print and just working around the tonal contrast. I think if I did bump that to about, let's say, 15, I like how it's looking on 15. So now we're starting to get that and that, like, yeah, we're definitely in on this. It's grungy, it's everything that you want it to be for an action scene. And I think just like color density wise, I will probably go to, let's see what we can get just to give it that more umph. And we can see what that is doing to the skin tones as well. It's starting to bring back the colors in the skin tones. I think somewhere about here would be good. Yeah, just trying to, dial that look in. And yeah, I think I like that. I think I like that. I like what it's doing overall to the skin tones, where it's popping, but it's not too in your face. And then if we come down to this guy, we can see that here. Let me find like a hero frame. I like what it's doing generally. I just feel like there's too much darkness in this. It's a bit dark. So I would come back into the curves and just sort of lift those, those lower sections, bring it back up, bring it back up, bring back more life into it. And now you can see that we're back to it. We're back. We've gone from this, which was like almost pale, lacked contrast, and now we're here, right? We're here. So I think, yeah, at this point, I would be comfortable with this image to move it forward. And then I would come back into dehancer at this point. And for me, usually my approach to using film grain is very subtle. Like, I don't think, first of all, this is a commercial. It's not a stylized video. So usually clients don't appreciate that there's so much film grain on their video. They like it to be clean. They like it to be everything. So, and I think dehancer does this well by just giving all of this preset. So I think that initially I would start with a 35 millimeter and see what that looked like. I think that this is still a bit too much. First of all, let's just go from 8. The 8 looks, I mean, I'm not gonna lie though, it does look good though. But that's ISO 50, and this would be, oh my lord, now that is a mess. Right. I don't want to waste your time. I'm just gonna go straight away to 65. This is where I find it to be an acceptable level of grain. That is just like, it's just that slight touch. You don't know that it's there, but it's there. So I'm just going to use, 65 mil ISO 50 so that we still try to hold that clean look, but you just put that as an extra sauce in case there's any other type of like, noise or anything. And I think I would also do the same as well for the halation. I think if I put that here, I think that straight away, this is too much. Oh yeah, definitely too much for me. My approach to halation is also the same. Like, I don't want something that's going to be too much in your face. If someone is starting to know that this thing is there, then it's starting to become a problem. So I think here, I like what this is doing here. It's also just like giving extra life to the skin tones here. So I think if I would probably go here, and if we zoom into about 75, we can see that on what it's doing on his shirt, right? So we come up here. It's almost non-existent. And that's the beauty of this. You almost do not see it. It's just here, So if I go and I turn that off, look at this side. See, now it's clean. If I turn it on, now it's back there. I mean, this is just like pixel peeping at this point, but if we fit that into the frame, you almost don't know that it's there. You almost do not know. And I think then bloom is not necessarily my type of thing. Also, considering that this is a commercial, it doesn't fit into the look that we're going for. It's not soap opera. So I would not be using bloom. I would not be using film damage. I would not be using the film breath. One thing dope that I would be using would be the vignette. Now, the point of this is we want to draw the attention back into our main character, this main subject here. Usually what I do is I turn off the feather. I just turn that off real down so that I can see exactly what the range is covering. So if I was going to do this, I would say probably just like, make this go out just a little bit more so that we have some space. Perhaps here 75, I would say. And then I would bring that feather back to about 100% so that if we see what it's doing, it's just, dialing down on the edges and just bringing the main subject here into the main focus of everything. So, I mean, I think that this is the bulk of what I would be doing for film emulation and just color grading this. Usually it's always very, very subtle. And I find that this is the best way to use dehancer for film emulation and things like that. Let me know if this has been helpful. My name is Tayo, and I will see you the next time when I will be making another video. Bye.